generally, whenever there is a denial of some sort, you do have the right to appeal or fight that decision. How you would do that is dependent upon your plan, but generally speaking, if something is denied, you do really have a right to try to appeal that.
Welcome, listeners. I am pleased to have Dawn joining us today. Dawn has been working in the insurance industry since 2007. She has nearly a decade of experience in customer service. She has experience on the other side of the coin, too, as a quality assurance auditor, reviewing recorded calls to ensure accuracy and efficiency. She also audited claims in a QA role. And today, she's a training specialist, educating associates about health insurance and terminology and insurance systems. She is a certified COBRA administrator and has experience in a variety of formats in the review and investigation process for appeals. You have a long and storied history. I am so happy to have you here today, Dawn.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm happy to be here as well.
Yes. Well, we invited you here because Jolene and I got a listener question, and the listener asked, what options do you have when a medication or treatment has been denied by your insurance company? Can you fight the decision, and how? And I know there's a lot to talk about, and this might be one of the more frustrating processes to understand as a member. So first, let me say that I know you're not going to answer this one individual's question exactly, because every experience is going to vary from plan to plan, but maybe we can help people understand this in little chunks at a much higher level. So to start, how would you know if you have the right to appeal a decision in the first place? Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great place to start. And I'm going to say that generally, whenever there is a denial of some sort, you do have the right to appeal or fight that decision. How you would do that is dependent upon your plan. There are other things that are in place with that as well, such as timeframes and the methods and things of that nature. But generally speaking, if something is denied, you do really have a right to try to appeal that.
For every plan?
For every plan that we service here at Nova that I have worked with, they all do have appeals rights and options available for their members.
So if you want to file an appeal, is that going to vary? So it's either a form online, or you have to call customer service, or you have to go to HR. Where would you start?
All right, so that is a varied answer question.
Yeah.
So it does really depend on what exactly is being denied, as well as your plan. So each plan is very unique and different and has different guidelines and things of that nature. So that's one big part of the whole puzzle. But the other piece as well is what is being denied. Is it a pre-authorization request for a service that is going to be coming up? Is it a claim denial? Is it something contractual? So that's where we're really starting to look at, how you proceed from there. And generally, like if you get something that is denied via like authorization, so you're having an upcoming service that requires pre-authorization, the provider submits some clinical information, and we review that and we deny that. With that, there's always a letter that is generated that includes an appeal filing form along with that. In those cases, the member would just file that appeal on that specific appeal filing form. Now, it is very important that they actually do so on that specific form that is attached to that denial, because being that there are different guidelines and timeframes and things of that come into place, each group may have a different denial letter. It may look the same, but when you get into the specific language on that denial, it might be a little bit different. So it would be really important that they, file that particular form that is attached with the denial. Now, for some reason, if someone didn't get that denial, or if they maybe misplaced it or lost it or whatever the case may be, they can always actually call in, and they can call directly into servicing. And we have access in servicing to all of that information as well, where they can just print off another copy and send that out to the members.
And what if, in the instance of the example that we have, if it's a medication, so not a pre-certification, but if it's a denial like that, how does that change the scenario?
So, unfortunately, that probably becomes even a little more complicated simply because, so when you say medication, I think of a couple of different things. First thing I think of is pharmacy. So if it's something that, a member is going to the pharmacy to pick up, it's a prescription, they're picking it up, they're administering it at home to themselves. That is actually handled by their pharmacy vendor.
So what's interesting is I think before I started working at Nova and I was looking at my ID card, so pre this life, I know I would looking at the ID card that there were logos all over the place. And I never understood until I worked here that the logo on the front, that branding on the front, and the logo for the pharmacy manager, like, why was that different? Or what changes things? So I feel like it goes back to the ID card, that ID card is almost like this magic box that has so much information on it. And if there's something on the back that indicates who the pharmacy vendor is, when you think prescription or pharmacy benefits, it isn't just you call the medical, you call your medical plan about it, because it's a different company that actually handles those pharmacy benefits. So I feel like that kind of goes back to understanding the ID card and knowing that pharmacy doesn't equal medical, even though in your brain you kind of lump it all together. If I'm getting a prescription from my doctor, those are two different, those claims process in two different ways. The medical visit is one thing through your, ID card, the logo on your ID card, that administrator or that carrier, and then that logo on the back where pharmacy comes in. So my PCP claim for my doctor's visit comes in one way. The prescription they wrote me goes to a different company because it's a different type of claim.
Right, exactly. And Sarah, I can definitely say that that is ultimately one of the most probably confusing things for, our members.
So if on the appeal side, what we can help people understand is start with, you've got your denial, and then what's the denial for specifically? And
Right,
that's maybe
exactly.
another good place to start
Right,
with
exactly. And
who
when
to
you're
call.
getting those denial notices, they're going to be coming from the specific company that is doing that, who is handling that.
Got it.
And if you're really looking at those denial notices, it will contain some kind of information directing you on next steps. Sometimes it may not include like an official appeal, like filing form or a letter, but it may at least give you some contact information like, oh, contact, this company with this number for additional information on, filing purposes or things like that. So I think it's also just really important to just like really read what you're getting and look at it. And there's usually some kind of guidance on there that will help you with those next steps.
Yep. And I think in a conversation with somebody else, with Jill, we talked about like, what letter are you holding? Because, as a member, you think what you're reading, but somebody on the other end, on the customer service end, should be able to interpret it a lot easier. So, what's the letterhead? Who's it from? Who signed it? Because sometimes that can even help on the customer service side to be able to identify really how are we going to best help you navigate the problem, because it's very complicated. And the way I understand my ID card and the whole process now it's night and day from before I started working in insurance. So, looking externally, I know it's super frustrating. But But I also know, like, it's those having written some of those letters. Go, I feel like we tried to cover that when we sent the letter, but it doesn't, when you're angry that something has been denied, sometimes it's really hard to recenter yourself to figure out even where to call. It's easy to call the number at the top and the front of your ID card.
Right, exactly. That's very true. And obviously we do get a lot of people that, get misdirected and call us when they should be calling elsewhere. And honestly, if that happens, that's okay. I mean, that's what our care navigators are there for. They're there to figure out like what that person needs and where they need to go, and they will direct them where they need to go and help them get, their end result, overall. So yeah.
Oh, the ID card is a treasure trove of information. Those letters, open every letter you get, look at the letterhead, look for the contact information. If you don't find a form, call the number on that letterhead. It's probably, or in that email, so many people are opting to receive things by email because it reduces clutter, it improves turnaround time, but feel like read that stuff is the best first step, so that
Yes,
when you have the
absolutely.
conversation, right, then
Yep,
you're better able to
absolutely.
explain to customer service, here's what I'm looking at.
Right.
Now, how do I
Right.
start the process for an appeal?
Yep, absolutely. That is, ultimately the first step. And, like you said earlier, sometimes, when you're frustrated or angry and, like just looking for, some answers or some more help, like sometimes it's hard to really focus on what's in front of you. But if you can really look at what's in front of you, and then you at least know where you should be going. But, still ultimately, our customer service area, our care navigators really are trained to be there to like help and guide and assist. So whenever there's a question about, can I file? How do I file? What do I do next? Or, and this isn't really in regards to anything at all, any kind of questions, really the step is to really just pick up the phone and give us a call, and we'll be able to find those next step, those guidance like for you. So that's really what's really important. And that's why we're here. We're really here to help you and to help guide you and make those next steps and choices correctly.
Well, I am so glad that we were able to have you help us walk through appeals, because it's not easy. It's not fun. But not only do you understand them, but you train people on how they're going to help others through the process. So you're a lucky find.
I appreciate that, Sarah. I was glad that I could, come in and maybe offer some assistance to some people out there.
Yes. Well, I'm happy too. This podcast is brought to you by Nova Healthcare Administrators. Why do they let us keep doing this? Because at the end of every day, every Nova associate really is driven to do what's right. We want what's best for our clients and their members, and we do a great job of sharing what we do with each other. Between our colleagues and business partners, we know a lot of kind, smart, thoughtful people who we convince to share their tips with you. If you have a question you'd like us to answer, you can send it to podcast@novahealthcare.com, or you can find us on Twitter at UNDR the coverage. And don't forget to leave us a review, give us a like or subscribe, but more importantly, share. We'll find the insiders and you share it with the outsiders.